Good morning. It's January 8th, 2025. And yes, I went to the Bahamas for 2 days. Just kidding, just kidding. So there's a story behind why I'm doing four prompts in a row, and I'll tell you about it as we go on. The official prompt today is antique, but I'm also including emboss and tuck spot and hidden. The first thing I had to do was go through that stack of handmade papers that I had just had sitting in a pile for a year and a half. I know. And find the one or two remaining embossed handmade paper sheets. And I took some shaded lilac distress ink and just hit the highlights. And now I'm going to cut it down. And the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory. You'll see me auditioning different pages and so forth. So how this came about was, in the previous video, I said I already had a piece of embossed handmade paper in the section of my accordion fold that has collaged base pages. But I didn't want to slouch through the prompt and just go, look, embossed, moving on, 30-second video. Where's the fun, or what's the point in that? So I committed myself to doing an embossed piece for a page. And I had this fancy idea that I would top coat the scrolling on that embossed page with embossing powder, and get out my trusty dusty noisy heat gun and turn the volume down and do all that jazz. And to my intense irritation, I cannot find a single pot of embossing powder anywhere. They're put up somewhere in some organized place. I just don't know where that place is. Probably in a little plastic box with, I don't know. Couldn't find them. So then I was flummoxed. I was like, I don't know. And then I went over to Hidden Hills Treasure. I'll put her name in the, I'll put her link in the description. I think it's Hidden Hills Treasures or something like that. And she did something that inspired me to think about the embossed prompt differently. And I looked back at the prompt list, and it clicked in my head, due to her inspiration, that I had just watched a documentary on why we don't use ornate decoration in our home anymore. No Rococo style homes unless you have more money than God and are more foolish than the devil, perhaps. But no Victorian gingerbread, none of that fancy stuff. And so I thought, oh, there's a great image in that video that would help me make this prompt. So it is a tuck spot made out of embossed curly Q, fancy, handmade paper that would remind you of cove molding in a fancy house. And it's a tuck spot. It's embossed. I shaded it with shaded lilac. I don't know if that's all I'm going to do to the front or not. But then I also worked on some other elements of it. I went through my washi stickers, this, that, and the third, and found some what would be considered antique images. One is Victorian, and I don't care that I'm mixing styles, because you certainly saw fancy cove moldings in Victorian houses. So I had a germ of an idea, and I took a break because I saw that Shannon Green had posted, and she knocked it out of the park with embossed. Her link is permanently in my playlist underneath in show notes, because she just wowed us, and you really need to see how she accomplished embossed anyway. So we were all kind of yucking it up and having a good time with Shannon. And I read the comments, and some people were struggling. One or two people were kind of like, yeah, I don't own embossing stuff. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. So a couple of us jumped in and said, hey, can you try this? Can you try that? Do you have, you know, this, that, or the third? And we got a couple people going, which was all good fun. So, I was like, well, even though Shannon trumped all of us with her embossed day page, uh, I like the idea that I came up with based on the inspiration from the previous video, and I'm going with it. So here we are, and I am constructing my tuck spot. Now, because I used shaded lavender and the curly Q embossed paper, I was committed to doing something a bit more feminine than I normally do in my journals. If you go through my playlists, my journals are not gator mouth with lace and ribbon and all that jazz. Sorry. I love what other women do when they do that. I just don't pull it off well because I'm not an overtly feminine woman in that I don't wear pearls and lace and all that. I'm jeans and a t-shirt. Let's just call it what it is. Jeans and a t-shirt probably my whole life. Well, most of my whole life. So my journals reflect that. They're more tailored, they're more understated for the most part, and it's what I'm comfortable with. Give me leather, give me craft paper, give me buff colored cardstock, very little lace, even paper lace, even though European architecture with all its scroll work and its columns and, you know, all that fancy stuff really appeals to me. I absolutely love it. In fact, so much so that for 2 years, maybe more than 2 years, I've been following a rebuild of a 250-year-old convent by a Brit family who are expats in France. It's a French convent. And every time the or the publisher hits a home run with restoring something, like his first big project in that convent was to redo a very large kitchen, I'm just, eyeballs glued to it. So at any rate, I'm sort of a contradiction in terms, you might say. Now that I've cut out about 8 minutes of me struggling to get those acetate backs off of washi stickers, we're actually moving forward again. I've got my corner glued down, as you saw, and that is my tuck spot. I have my washi stickers that sort of tie the aesthetic in of fancy and whatever. This little envelope you've seen before, I pulled it out of my stash a couple weeks ago when we were talking about making envelopes, and since it's an envelope, it's got a stamp on it, and eventually it will have a postmark on it. My two of my borders are edged, the short borders, so the one on the right and the one on the left on the page, which is why you saw that white paper on there. And what am I looking for here? I'm not sure. Oh, I know, something to be half hidden, which is this butterfly, this framed butterfly. The frame is very fancy and ornate, and hopefully we won't have to cut out another 8 minutes of me trying to get the acetate off. We'll see, I guess. And I know I'm not the only one who struggles with this acetate washi sticker business. I've seen people use 2 different pieces of tape to pull them apart by twisting and all that. I will struggle with it, and I'll use an X-Acto knife but for the most part, they don't get used as much as I would like them to. So we're just about done here, and I'll just show you what the elements ended up being, keeping in mind embossed, tuck spot, antique, and hidden. So we've got some antique motifs in these fancy frames. We've got our embossed tuck spot. We have an envelope that says, out of limitation comes creativity. And that is a nod to everybody this week who has worked around lack of materials, lack of tools, and lack of inspiration. There's a little envelope in there with a little pull tab on it with just an inspirational message. And the butterfly is half hidden, but there's a hidden tuck spot that you guys don't know about. You didn't see it, probably. Or maybe you had sharp eyes and you figured it out. Either way, it's there. I want to thank Shannon Green for keeping us laughing and creating an atmosphere where somebody feels comfortable asking for help and people jump in and give their best recommendations, as well as the other creator who inspired me to keep my original plan to do the emboss prompt one way or another, and then helped me see that I could incorporate the next couple of prompts. This is not the last that we will see of this page. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you real soon.